coincidence is my excitement for the eagerly anticipated RTS from former Warcraft and StarCraft
Yes.
devs at Frost
Guys, we're
Giant
here.
Studios. It's Stormgate, and today we don't just get the chance to get some exclusive first look at some Stormgate gameplay, but we're also joined by Frost Giant's president and game director Tim Campbell here to tell us exactly how Stormgate will delight all minds, artificial or otherwise. Thanks so much for joining us, Tim.
Thanks, it's great to be here.
Now, I've been following Stormgate for years, but for those of us who haven't, what is Stormgate?
Stormgate is our modern take on the classic real-time strategy game formula. It's what we think of as a spiritual successor to franchises like Warcraft, StarCraft, Command & Conquer. And real-time strategy games are the type of game where you can control an entire battlefield. So this classic RTS formula includes harvesting resources, building sprawling bases, commanding huge armies on the battlefield.
What is it about Stormgate that's new?
We believe that the RTS genre is something that should be enjoyed by players of all skill levels. And so we've put a lot of effort into making sure that Stormgate feels good, whether you're a pro with high technical skill and you love competitive play, or whether it's something that you just want to be able to relax with and experience a story.
Now, Tim, I understand that you
That's all the
brought,
gameplay.
for all of us, but in particular for me, a present to show today. What are you going to show, Tim?
We are going to show gameplay from the pre-alpha of Stormgate.
Yeah.
Now this is something that we are big believers in at Frost Giant. We want to share this current state of the game today.
Guys, listen to the music. The music's really good.
Oh, Tim, I'm so excited. And right away, this looks like an RTS. Tell me what we're seeing.
This is the classic start to a 1v1 match. What you're seeing here is the human faction as they're sending workers out to harvest resources. They're starting to construct buildings. They actually build them by 3D printing them from the ground up. And you can see them now starting to train troops.
How
They
good
have
does
an
it?
army
The
that goes out
buildings
to
look,
fight.
guys.
Yeah, and I mean, right here, we see in the corner coming up, this looks like a scout unit.
Yeah, that is literally a cybernetic dog with laser eyes. It is called the Scout, okay? It's designed for early game. It's a unique unit to the human faction.
Right.
And you can see him now running through the base trying to see what information he can find out about his enemy.
Yeah, I mean, scouting and information is such an important part of RTS games.
It really is, and this is something that we've embraced early game. The Scout unit has been designed so it can actually sense units beyond its sight radius. So it's
awesome.
especially useful early on.
So we're heading into what looks like the first engagement of this game. What are we seeing?
Well, what we're seeing right here is the Red Scout getting surprised by a group of blue troops coming through the Light Force, which is the new terrain type and a twist on the tactical battlefield here.
And how do these light forests work?
The Light Force lets smaller units move through them. They have concealment. It's allowed Blue to raid Red's base, in which case Red is barely getting a turret built with their speed building from their workers, a human faction advantage. And they're about to pop out a couple extra defenders here from their mech base.
So we got these huge mechs, and I mean, just visually, it looks like they are countering the heck out of these blue infantry, but can these red mechs fit through the forest?
No, they're too big to go through. They're heavy units. They're designed to use their chain guns to go through groups of enemies, but they can't fit through the Light Forest, which Blue knew and used to his advantage.
Okay, so we're in mid-game. This is normally where you make some big tech decisions. What's Red up to?
You're seeing Red commit to a tech path that gives them big battlefield mechs and air units like this evac.
And it looks like they're just dropping right on top of Blue, who was killing a chicken? What's the chicken there, Tim?
Yeah, that's a giant chicken with a Viking helmet on it. Use your imagination. Stormgate's in pre-alpha, and that's art that we haven't gotten to yet, but imagine it as a big Mad Max Raider.
It's the most threatening placeholder art for now. And oh, I see Red diving onto Blue, and hey, picking back up into the air transport. That's some classic high-level micro.
It is, and it's really important for Stormgate that we maintain a high skill ceiling so that players can express themselves on the battlefield by maneuvering and how they interact with the battlefield.
And here we have the final fight of the game, and it looks like Blue is coming up against those mechs. Red is trapped on the other side of the trees. Oh, wait, they can blast through them now? And Blue's dodging these enormous shots, and we can also see Blue swarming in from both sides. This is not looking good for Red, Tim.
No, it's pretty grim. Red is on the ropes right here, and they've been outmaneuvered. They're caught in the corner here between two different forces coming in with a mobile pincer.
Man, and of course,
there's the GGs.
The most classic ending to an RTS game, GG. Get Tastosis on that stat. Outside of 1v1, what's coming up for Stormgate?
What you've seen today is just the tip of the iceberg. We have so much more in store. We're going to be revealing a bunch of stuff about Stormgate the rest of this year. We're introducing new modes. We have a 3-player versus AI cooperative mode. We have team-based competitive modes. We're going to be sharing information about our storyline and campaign. We have new factions beyond the humans that you just saw today.
But Tim, what if I want to play the game right now?
If you want to play the game as soon as possible, you wish list Stormgate on Steam and you go to playstormgate.com to sign up for the beta. We're starting closed testing in July.
Once again, go to Steam and wishlist Stormgate. Tim, thank you so much again for joining us, not just to talk about the 1v1 footage you shared, but the future content plans of Stormgate. It makes the RTS players' dreams come true. Which might not be your dreams. I mean, your dreams might be filled with
clunky /
gloriously
slow.
grimy Deus Ex-inspired
It looks slower than
sci-fi fisticuffs
StarCraft.
with a fiendishly Star Wars vibe
I think you
to
guys
it.
are just too used to
So,
StarCraft, man.
get a load of this latest trailer for Fortune's Run.
All right, let's go. Where's the YouTube channel? Let's rewind. Let's talk. Really, Matt? Oh god. Okay, let's hang on. Let me try and get my thing up. Let's see if we can rewind.
Fiendishly Star. What is Stormgate?
All right.
Now this is something that would
All right. It is supposed to be slower than StarCraft 2. It's one of the things they've said from the start is that by slowing the game down, it's not meant to be like, it's meant to be more of a mix between Warcraft 3 and StarCraft 2, right? Let's have a
looks
look.
like an RTS.
I'm gonna meet them up. I really like the one of the things I really liked about it was it seems very clear. I think the building, for example, it looks very good. The animations of like structures building looks really cool. I think these things look really sick and really fleshed out. And yeah, just baseline in terms of initial base build and stuff, obviously it looks a little bit kind of like dumbed down from StarCraft. That's not necessarily a bad thing. That's one of those things which is like, it's very hard to know more about until you get into it. And I've not played it or anything yet, guys. It's just me kind of like having seen gameplay. It's going to be kind of interesting. We got the doggos. That kind of cute. The scouting units. Obviously gives you a rough idea. Obviously those are just scouts like hitting each other. This is the Lancer, by the way. It's kind of like a melee kind of human unit. He has like a big sword. He could whack things. So I thought this was pretty good. The first kind of idea of like scouting base building looks pretty good. I think as well, I think you've got to look at the scope. A lot of what we saw in these clips are a lot of what it looks like in these clips is like, you know, we're looking at like one base, but if you look at like the minimap, I feel like there's so much around the minimap to look at, and there's so much space that we just don't get a feel for in like the clips that we get. You know? So I think that's something to keep in mind here. UI, I'm not going to talk much about the UI. I'm not a big UI guy, but I think a lot of the stuff they've done with UI to kind of make stuff like look smoother and stuff is nice. Obviously, it's all compacted down on the bottom and so on. So, yeah. All right, let's continue until the next gameplay clip and see what else there is to say. This guy seems cool, man. I think there's going to be a lot of cool stuff with these kind of things. Scout and Dog is dope. It needs more speed. I feel like it's really difficult to get a concept of speed because I feel like you're not like, I think it's really hard to get a concept of speed because you're not seeing a full game, right? You're seeing like really like short clips. You'll get, you know what I mean? You're seeing like really short clips of like moments. Like you're not seeing a full game. You don't really get, you get the idea of like how one battle might feel out. It's like, and we're watching like early game clips, right? Where it's like, is a StarCraft 2 fight super quick? Not necessarily. Right? Like, I mean, early game StarCraft 2 fights is like a Reaper shooting at something or Zelt and an Adept going back. Those aren't the like super fast paced fights. And we know it's going to be slower than StarCraft as well, right? So, yeah. That's one of those, that's one thing that I think you just have to remember, that a lot of these things are like earlier game fights and so on. And again, it is also designed to be slower. So this is a fight that's happened in 5 minutes. Obviously some kind of rush, like you mentioned, coming through the thing. We build up a defensive turret. We're building up these bigger mech units. I think one of the things that's notable is you can see kind of the unit movement looks pretty clean. Everyone that's played it and has mentioned it says that the unit movement is pretty nice and that, you know, really is responsive, which I think is one of the absolute most important things for Stormgate. These guys seem pretty sick as well, by the way. I think these guys do more damage the longer they fire. That's pretty cool. The forest and stuff, I don't know how I feel about this. This is one of these things where it's like a cool strategic idea. Not sure how it's going to come into play. Cool idea, cool new ways to interact with maps, I think is generally good. I think that's one of the ways you can absolutely explore more in RTS and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, what's the max supply? I have no idea. It's like rocks in SE2. I think it's even more interactable rocks, because rocks just block everything, and then they die and they're gone. Whereas these let some units through, some units not. You can build more strategies around it, right? So I think this part's actually kind of cool. Cool ideas. I think it's kind of nifty. Let's go to the next bit. So this is some more base building, right? What is this bit? Is this the bit where we get the? Oh yeah, so that was just a little bit of base building. This is the dropping unit. So we got a flying unit. It looks a little bit rough on the turn, but I think that's like a pre-alpha thing. Like, to me, this looked a little bit jittery turning around the corner. I was like, oh my god. But like, again, this is pre-alpha, guys. This is something we absolutely have to remember. Pre-alpha. There's a lot of work to be done. There's a reason they're only showing one race right now, for example, and so on. So that's definitely a factor too. And this is, by the way, I believe all of these clips are from a real match between TLO and Monk. So we all know TLO. Monk's one of the lead balance designer at Stormgate. He's actually someone I've known for years. He used to play with me. He used to be my StarCraft 2 practice partner like 10 years ago. So, yeah, this is like a real game that these played. This is one of the most important things to talk about. First of all, this thing down here on the left, I'm pretty sure this thing is one of our additional resources. They've talked a lot about resources. I actually think that I have something to tell you guys about resources. There are two types of resources. Luminite, which is the primary resources, which is like the gold mound that we saw, and that's used to pay for the majority of things. And there's a secondary resource called therium, which is for advanced structures, basically your gas. But listen to this. It spreads and enriches when unmined, so that you have more strategic options about where and when they should expand. So basically, your gas isn't just like a gas structure you mine from. It moves around the map. It has different gameplay mechanics. There's underground veins. There's exposed patches. So actually, I think the gas mining thing is actually kind of cool. Because when I first saw like the first mining, I was like a bit disappointed that it's kind of like, oh, we're just going to one structure and back and forth. But I think that part of it really allows for a lot more kind of cool stuff. I don't know how much RNG affects that. I would imagine it's one of these things where it's like, over time it gets figured out how it works and people know how to play around it. I think that idea is potentially very cool. I'm not sure if that's what this is, but it might be. I just noticed that. Obviously, this is a creep camp, guys. Creep camps, I think, are going to be an interesting choice. Creep camps, I know a lot of people are very against creeping. This is not a game with heroes. There's not heroes. There's not leveling. But what there is this idea of having objectives on the map still. So it's not just all about kind of killing your opponent. It's having reasons to fight on the map or reasons to do something other than fighting on the map. This is something I think they have a lot of potential with. You know, whether this is like you kill a creep camp as your one of the things, for example, in StarCraft 2, Xel'Naga watchtowers were always on maps in StarCraft 2. And that was like hey, go out on the map and take a Xel'Naga watchtower. That's the sort of thing which I feel like is such a boring aspect. It's like, you walk here and you take it. Your opponent sends a stronger unit there, they take it. Do we ever really fight over the watchtower? Yeah, kind of a little bit, but a lot of the time it's just one unit that just takes it and holds like a massive bit of vision. I much like the idea of like, for example, like creep camps, taking, providing vision to somebody that, like wins the creep camp fight, for example. So it's an advantage, but it's not like oh, I creeped better, so I'm higher level and I can't, you know what I mean? So, and then if you're like, hey, I don't want vision with my build, I'll ignore the creep and do other things, you can take advantage of that. I think that's actually potentially very cool as well. The chicken apparently is not going to make it into the game. I think the chicken should be creeps, quite frankly. This is obviously like a pretty cool idea of just like dropping down, and this little charge thing, this guy gets stunned. So these guys have like little charges. They charge into this group. They stun the first unit they collide into, it seems like. I think that's very cool. Again, these guys have railguns. What are these guys called, I believe? I think these are called the Vulcan. A Gatling jump that spins up to deal increased damage over time. And it punches through multiple units in a straight line. And it also has a jump jet ability which repositions and stuns enemies in its way. And can also then clear out the trees, which we saw a little bit earlier on, or maybe a bit later on, actually. So I think that stuff's very cool. I think that stuff's pretty neat. I like these first few units we've seen. We've got kind of our baseline kind of marinas, the scout, the dropping unit. I think the Vulcan's one of the most innovative ones that we get to see here. That's the one that's really like something we don't have in like StarCraft, something like a gun that shoots through things, right? So I like that. I think that's very cool. I think this is a good little section to look at to kind of get an idea of like the speed. How far back can I go? Can I just go to like... Yeah, let's just watch this a little bit again, guys. Just to get an idea of the speed. So obviously we saw kind of the mini-map is coming around the corner. Like, if you drop into this fight, this is the kind of fight that's... It's not super slow, right? Like, units do take a little while to die. I think what's going to be very fun is that creates... Right now it's just like, oh, it looks like we're just attacking and killing things, and it's taking a long time. That's boring. But the really cool opening and opportunity that provides is it's going to give you a lot of opportunity to micro. It's going to give you more... You're not going to have that moment where they drop the disruptor, boom, your army's gone. Wasn't that fun? You know? They're going to... You know, if something happens, you actually have time to react. You actually have time to do things. I love that. I think that's a great choice. I think StarCraft 2 is way too fast. I love StarCraft, and I think the speed of it is something we'll never see again. Because in this modern day and age, if they want to make an RTS that genuinely people want to play, it couldn't be as fast as StarCraft, you know? I just don't think it can be. I don't think that's something you can make in this day and age. I think that's just long gone, by the way. I just think it's completely long gone. So yes, I think the speed is good, because what they are trying to do is hit a balance of speed between War 3 and StarCraft 2. That's what they've been saying a long time. That's apparently like the unit's time to die average is between that right now. And of course, that's still something that they can tweak a lot right now. It's pre-alpha, so if the game genuinely feels slow and uninteresting, they can tweak things. That's the beauty of it still being pre-alpha, right? StarCraft has the perfect speed. I mean, like, that's what's... I mean, that's just an opinion, right? Kills the chicken. I think that provided some gas or something. I don't think that's necessarily going to be what the creeps do all of the time. I think they're going to work with a lot of ideas in terms of what the creep camps can do and so on. I think that's going to be a very interesting one to watch. This is a larger fight. This unit down here, this guy on the 4 legs, he is the Atlas, I believe. A long-range artillery mech that rains down area of effect damage. With the Purification Ordnance upgrade, its attacks leave behind a damaging field of flames, and they also cause friendly fire. So I think this is a design thing where you can immediately see, like, if this was something in StarCraft, this would be like a storm that lands and does damage, like, instantly, you know? Whereas here, you see these units showing up, we charge in, we stun a couple, this thing, I guess stuff isn't in range yet, and now that it's in range, it fires, it moves, and you have time to pick up into the medevac, or the evac, whatever we're calling it, and dodge out the way. Cool, a bit of micro, but you know what this did? It might not have hit, but these units have had to pick up and move out the way and drop down again. That's kind of a cool play, right? You know, this was interactions on both sides. It's very easy to maybe blue still wins this fight, but I think it's very easy to say, oh, this thing fires so slowly, but it forced blue into a decision that puts him in a disadvantage compared to he was before, right? So I like that kind of idea. I think that guy on the top is the med guy, the meta, oh, what's it called? The med tech? I don't think we see too much of him in this, but yeah. So yeah, this kind of zoning thing, obviously in this case, you get pushed back anyways, right? But you're seeing this idea of these lances getting dropped down, getting into range, getting some damage done, making the play onto that. I think that was pretty cool. There's going to be our example of, oh, here's a little bit of our spectating UI. You see it's Monk versus TLO up at the top. This over here says pre-alpha temp hires, which is like the chicken creeps, by the way. That's kind of fun. Cool. This is these are the couple of the Vulcans coming through, and this is where they're going to smash down the forest, which I think is actually a really cool idea. Although, I guess these guys can move through the forest anyways, but we smash down the forest. This thing is really interesting, because to me, like, this one is obviously not hitting soon enough to do anything. What would be cool, though, is if this thing can pre-fire somewhere, right? Like, for example, you see this thing. What if this thing can pre-fire here, and its upgrade leaves the flames on the ground? And so you can zone out this area every, like, 3 seconds out of 5 or something, you know? Something along those lines. I think that's the sort of thing that could be really cool. So, yes, it fired over here, and the Marines were already moving out of the way. It isn't great. I think that's got some potential as well if you can kind of, you know, target certain locations and stuff. So, yeah. A little bit of pickup micro as well. Obviously, at this point, this is the point where red is kind of just dead, right? So, kind of gets a little bit stomped. I think my thoughts on this when I first saw it was not like, wow, this is amazing. This is it, right? My thoughts were a bit like, huh. I think what really for me was cool was that these clips really grew on me. You know? I think these clips really grew on me because I think you're kind of like going in thinking, this is it. And you're like, oh, that was it? But I think what's really cool is that this is pre-alpha. It's a very low set of first units for the human faction only. It's obviously just short clips. We don't get a general feel of how an entire game looks. I think there's just a lot to kind of keep contextualized. And I think there's a lot still to come. Like, it's pre-alpha, right? And I see people saying it looks bland. These are the kind of things they have so long to, like, fix up and to make different. They've already shown concept art of, like, new battlefields and new zones and stuff that there'll be maps of. And in my eyes, I think they all look beautiful. Like, this is them getting a baseline down. I think their main number one thing, right, is to, like, get in there and to make the game very playable. And one of the main things they've done is make the units. And I think one of the things I definitely noticed is that units look like they move well. I think that's been one thing. I've not seen units kind of like clunking around each other. Like, the evac turn was kind of funky. So, yeah. There's more. Here you go. We'll watch this together, then. Go on, then. There's more. This is what we initially saw. Oh, this is the big fight. I think this big fight on the left side looks pretty sick, no? There's some, like, healing stuff going down in the Vulcans. Oh, yeah, this is the part they showed at the very start. They didn't really linger on this. It kind of happened before it happened. There's a lot to take in with this being split screen. Okay, we'll go back and watch it.
Hi guys, this is TLO. Obviously played RTS my entire life, so it's been a real privilege for me to be one of the first people to try out Stormgate. Really stoked about this match against Kevin. Think I'm gonna do some light harass in the early game and then just try to overwhelm him with a massive amount of macro.
So this is the first little bit we saw. I think the building's building pretty good time. Here's the dog coming in. You know, I just want to stop. A lot of people saying it feels very slow. I bet you guys, if you go in this game and you try and do all this and you think, yeah, this looks really slow, you guys are going to go in and you're going to be like, holy crap, I've got like 2,000 resources. Come back to me when you play the beta and you're macroing like gods, okay? Let's see that.
Hi, my name is Kevin Monkdong, and I work on gameplay and balance on Stormgate. Today, I'll be trying a fast expansion build, and then I'll try to tech to higher tier units to defend whatever TLO throws at me.
So these are the clips we kind of saw before with them talking a bit about, I guess. But isn't it nice that this army doesn't just like... Can you imagine this was SC2? And like 8 Marines show up, and this is like a Protoss building a battery, and the Protoss has like 8 probes. Like, okay, don't get me wrong, like you're meant to take some damage, but like it would be over like boom. Oh, you didn't see it coming? Dead. Isn't it nice that there's at least a chance to react and have a go of making something of it? Don't get me wrong, I like the speed of StarCraft 2. I think the concept of the game working a bit slow is not a bad thing.
He did a lot of worker damage there, so I'm at a pretty bad economic disadvantage. I'm gonna have to try some really sneaky tactics, maybe getting an upgrade TLO isn't familiar with, perhaps maybe even luckily creepjacking him.
I like this. I honestly think this fight's very cool. I think this fight's a really good example. It's kind of... This fight's so fun because this thing forces the Marines to reset, but you force the Vulcans to reset, and the Vulcans take time to, like, fire up and to spin up and to do max damage. So, like, it's actually a very technical fight, I feel like. I think that's one of the things, like, it's so easy to look at this and be like, oh, that looks boring, when you don't know what each and every unit is doing exactly, right? I think this fight is actually a really cool fight. I know I've talked about it once already. I think the set of interactions and responses, like, there's something that player A does that makes player B do something else, and then player A's response to that is like, oh crap, now I'm actually not okay, and then player B still capitalizes, you know? Is everyone the same race? They've only got gameplay with one race right now.
Looking forward to hopefully dealing the finishing blow against Kevin here. I'll attack again from the right side through the light trees, but this time we'll bring in a larger force from the left side as well. And I think I'll be able to out-micro him here. He has a more static mech army, I believe, and my bio unit should be able to touch all the tech shots, get in there, and have a pretty smooth path of attack here.
I mean, I don't think this looks slow at all. I think this looks like there's so much to do. There's so much going on, no? And this is just like a fight from two sides. Okay. So you said there was more. This was exactly the same clips we saw, just with TLO and Monk talking. I honestly think it's a good speed, guys. I think you guys are just seeing small clips, and not saying you're not entitled to your opinions. I just don't think that the speed is an issue like people are saying. I honestly think this fight's just like... Obviously, this fight's a bit later on. I think it's... obviously, at this point, Blue's going to win, right? But even then, there's like a lot going on. You've got the healing going on back here. And this is, again, a fight with what? Like 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 or 5 different units? There's not just going to be 5 units in the human race, right? Like, there's a lot more to come. I think it's a really good start. SC2 is an old game. This looks terrible in comparison, and it's new. It's also in pre-alpha. Did you see any pictures of StarCraft 2 when it was in pre-alpha? Or alpha? If you look up at alpha SC2 pictures, you are going to be absolutely horrified. I don't know if it'll show up. Here's a Beastie Cutie video. Here's what SC2 looked like. In alpha. Does this look like SC2 to you guys? This is SC2's alpha. Apparently. Is that actually SC2? That's Brood War, right? That's crazy. It makes me question if it's Brood War. Like, just as a comparison. I know that was just a quick glance. You know what I mean? Like, it's pre-alpha. I think for it to look like this in pre-alpha, very impressive. So yeah. It looks better than Stormgate pre-alpha looks. Yeah, I don't know about that, man. I can't agree there. Alright, that's pretty much it. That was the gameplay, right? Cool. You don't think it'll look much better on launch graphically? Fair enough. I think it looks fine graphically. To me, like... Okay, here's my question to you guys. How much better do you want the graphics to be? I think the maps and stuff have a lot of work to do, but unit-wise, because to me, when you start upping the graphics beyond something like this, it's not a fun, easy to kind of play game. You want realistic graphics? It doesn't work. Like, so you want AoE 4. AoE 4 is not easy to watch. I think the whole point is like the details and the in-depth and all of this. Maybe they'll add some of it, but the more you do that, the more difficult it is for this game to look good while it's being played. RTS, that has a lot of units out at any one time, that has a lot going on, there's spellcast, there's stuff. I just don't think you want it to look realistic. I actually 100% disagree. The more realistic it gets, the worse it actually gets to play, I think. I think this looks good for an RTS, and maybe I'm just like this. I'm not a big graphics guy, so I admit that straight away. To me, this looks like the kind of game that's easy to read. The units are very clear. I don't think there's a single point in this where I'm like, I'm not sure whose unit is whose or which unit is what. I can tell you that that's the Lancer, that's the Evac, that's the Vulcan, that's the Atlas, that's the Doggo, that's the Meditech, you know? So yeah, I think if you prefer StarCraft 2's look, that's fine. I don't think that's an issue. I think this is the sort of look that you need to have in an RTS game. It's like saying like League of Legends sucks because League of Legends is really cartoony, you know? Well, yeah, but League of Legends doesn't suck. A lot of people like it. Like, the graphics won't be for everyone, and that's okay. I think the graphics are a great choice for how the RTS is going to be, especially when they're trying to make this a big, like a successful esport. Clarity and so on has to be super good. So I think that's just really good. I think these kind of like terrains have a lot to be done to them, and the maps and so on. But I think the units are in a pretty good place right now. So yeah. That'd be interesting to see more. The music, by the way, was really good. If you did you guys hear a bit of the music? The music is amazing, by the way. I actually think the music is really good. So yeah. I get it if you guys don't like the graphics and stuff. I don't think the graphics are like instantly like, oh, I'm coming from StarCraft 2. The graphics look, you know, it doesn't look like StarCraft 2 graphics-wise. Is that a bad thing? For some people, maybe that's make or break. For me, I want a fun, playable RTS game, and I think they've got a very good baseline for that, so yeah. Gameplay is what matters most? Yeah, I 100% agree. And you know the other thing about the graphics? Okay. I'm not a graphics guy, but I'm going to tell you all things. When you open with graphics like this never grow to look bad, right? It's like StarCraft 2 in a way. Like, StarCraft 2, if you look at it now, you're not really thinking it's like a game that was made 10 years ago. The graphics are kind of timeless. I think it's kind of important to hit that in this game too. You need graphics that don't need to be updated in 5 years' time, otherwise everyone's like, I'm not playing that. You know, realism. You're trying to make something realistic now, might not look good in 5 years. Trying to make something in your own graphical kind of style now is much more likely to look good in 5 years, you know? I think there's a lot to say in that regard as well, so. How many pros play SE2 on high settings anyway? Yeah, it's actually better to play SE2 on low settings. Like, people in SE2 go out of their way to make the units look worse, so it's easier to see what's happening. Isn't that kind of bonkers? When you think about it, and we're here fighting over graphics? Yeah. I thought it was cool, guys. I think the game's got a lot of potential. I think the game's going to be awesome. I'm excited to play it. I think it's very hard to get a real feel for it in this regard. Seeing small clips, not getting a feel for like what else is going on. You know, so many people get into StarCraft 2 and watch StarCraft 2 and like, man, this is fascinating to watch. And they have no idea about the things that are going on behind the scenes, right? They don't know about all the things the players are doing and the depots they're building, the micro they're doing with their workers and stuff. I think that's the kind of thing that this game is still very difficult. It's very difficult to take those things from gameplay snippets like this. It'd be easier to watch a full match. I don't think they're in a place where they want to release a full match of gameplay because it's pre-alpha. I think it's a great baseline. I think it's the most important thing. I think it's a very solid baseline. I think they've got a lot of potential. I like the ideas as well. Like, you know, the trees, like this stuff. I think this is the sort of thing that they've got so much fun to, so much chance and opportunity to explore with as well. Like, this is what I'm like. I think potential is such a great word because the potential of being able to experiment with things like these, experiment with the creep camps and those sort of things. I think that potential is what can go a long way. So I think it's very important that they set themselves up in a good place, and I think that's what they're doing. So, is there any date for the next public step? They released something of a timeline. I'm not going to talk about anything like that because I'm not sure what they've officially said and what they just told us, and I don't want to get myself in trouble. But they announced already kind of the rough timeline for like pre-alpha access to like a very limited amount of people, and that they'd be introducing more people soon after that, for example. So I don't have more information than that I'm comfortable saying off the top of my head, honestly. Anything to show you guys in these? Some screenshots. Maybe I'll quickly just download these and open them up on the screen. Yeah, let's just download these quickly and just take a look and just see if they look, just in case the screenshots look nice and high quality and so on. There's in-game assets of the buildings and stuff. I'm not too interested in looking at the buildings and stuff. We saw how those looked. I thought they looked good. Some of the character art. That's not really what I'm here to talk about. Some of the concept art's very nice. I'll show you guys a couple of the concept art things. People saying it looks bland because I personally don't really agree. Alright, let me bring these up on stream one by one and we'll just discuss these things. So, I will start with this. So these are just a selection of screenshots they provided us. I think they're too big right now. I need to scale them down a little bit. This probably wasn't the most efficient way to do this. I'm not even sure this is a... is this one that we saw? This is a chaotic picture. Like, this is a chaotic picture. My goodness. There's so much going on here. I'm looking at, like, a small screen as well. There's a lot going on in this. Like, that's a lot of units. And I think that's something we didn't really see. Like, a lot of units in play at once. And I have not seen a game where there's a lot of units all at once that runs as well as this lately in RTS. And I think that's one of the things that, you know, that engine allows them to do. So I think that's really exciting. I think that's really cool. So this looks cool. There's some of the 4 workers available on this resource over here as well on the bottom side, on the bottom right. So I think that looks pretty neat. Alright, let's, I'm just going to bring up some of the screenshots, guys. Like I said, I'm going to resize these as we go just because I didn't have them set up previously. Yeah, this is one of the fights where we've got some of the explosions going off. Got some of the buildings in the background. Again, I think for me, the big thing is it looks pretty clear. I can tell some red stuff's died over here. I can tell the blue army is here, there. I can pick out the med unit straight away. I can see a Vulcan, Atlas, Atlas, Atlas. Dog. Lancers, you know what I mean? Like, I can see what each of these units are very quickly. I think that's so important. I think that's really, really important. Yeah, I think that's one of the really important things. The unit clarity is something they've absolutely nailed. They said that was something that they wanted to mention, or they wanted to nail, and in my eyes, they've absolutely nailed unit clarity. This is a, is this the right one? This looks like the previous one, no? This kind of looks like this one, just a few moments later. Yeah. Again, I think unit clarity is very good. You got a lot of animations. It gets messy. But when there's a lot of units fighting, of course it's going to get messy. That's part of the RTS, knowing what to focus on and everything. Yeah. Let's have a look at this. The one thing I would like is to see the health bars have little dividers, by the way. Like in StarCraft. Like, these single kind of line health bars. I don't know. They just... There's just something about them that doesn't look as cool. All these fights, Blue's just destroying Red, by the way. Red did not have a good time. You guys really don't think this looks good? Like, I think it looks good, man. Like, don't get me wrong, it's not like the craziest like graphics we've ever seen, but like, I don't think it looks bad. Like, I'm not a graphics guy. I'm not obsessed with graphics, but I just don't see that kind of opinion at all. It looks bland. I think that's fine. I mean, these are again just one. It's a low amount of units. It's like the terrain is obviously still something they can work a lot on. This is some of the concept art. This is some of the other like locations and so on that they've released. This was, I think, shown in some people's videos previously. This looks beautiful. I think this is going to be really cool. These are some obviously like just concept art of like areas and stuff. Lots of like cool stuff and possibility. I'm not going to focus on these for too long. I'm just going through the screenshots that I've got. Like I say, it's pre-alpha. I think there's a long way to go. I think these kind of things have a lot to... I think there's a lot to nail still. I think they're on a good path. I think they're on a good path. So yeah, that's my thoughts on the Stormgate gameplay, guys. I appreciate you chatting with me. Super interested to hear what you have to say still. If this goes on, I think I'll probably put this on YouTube. If you watch this on YouTube, check down below in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I think there's a lot they've done right. Again, I will say this again. I really resonated with what ZG said in her first video, which is that when she saw the gameplay and her video first review was like, there was only one moment that made me go, wow. And I was kind of underwhelmed. And I kind of felt the same. I wasn't like, wow, this is it. This looks, wow. But the more I kind of lingered on my mind and the more I've thought about it over the last couple of weeks since I first saw it, the more I like it because I think more about how, like, a lot of the more it didn't need to be wow. It just needed to have good, solid gameplay, a good baseline, and good ideas. And I think that's exactly what they've got. I think they could have just not shown us gameplay for another year, and it would look a lot better. I think they just wanted to make sure people saw some gameplay, because people have been very desperate to see gameplay, so... First time is kind of meh, and delving into it is so much better. That's exactly what I had. When you just watch it, and I think it's the way it's presented as well. Because I really think it's like when they, especially the way, I don't like the way they did it in the show, where they kind of came out and talked about it and then went back in. I'm like, that wasn't, like, I would have almost wanted some longer clips. I think, like, the clips and the way we went from one moment to the next felt fairly like, oh, okay. But, like, the more when you, like, stop, you look and you read into it, that's what got me more excited. Hopefully it gets you a bit more excited as well if you weren't excited straight away. Alright, guys, that's it. GG's. That's Stormgate gameplay. Hopefully it's good. I'm excited to get into the pre-alpha in July. I'll let you know what it's like. I'll let you know if it's fun. I'll let you know if it sucks. I don't think it will. I think it's going to be fun. So, yeah.